Welcome back. Now, Kenya's university students have hit the streets in protests, making sure their voices are heard loud and clear. What is it about this time? Well, it all boils down to a new funding model that's changing the way university education is financed. So what has changed? And why is this new model sparking so much anger? Tonight on Unpacked, we dive into the nitty-gritties of the university funding model in Kenya as we break down what this new model means for you, your family, as well as the future of higher education in Kenya. Let's unpack it. Kenya's higher education system is currently caught in a storm. All thanks to a new funding model introduced by the government. From classrooms to streets, university students are making their voices heard.
Mandela said that education is the only weapon that you can equip an African child.
So what's the deal with this new funding model that's got students so fired up? Let's break it down. To understand the current situation, we need to rewind a bit to the good old days of the 60s and 70s, known as the boom era. Students enjoyed free education and even got an allowance from the government. Free money, no strings attached. Not to mention that jobs were a guarantee for almost all the graduates at the time. But like any good party, the boom era couldn't last forever. As the number of students began to rise, thanks to the dream of a degree becoming as popular as a viral TikTok dance. The government's wallet just couldn't keep up. So in came the Higher Education Loans Board, commonly known as HELB, in 1995, offering subsidized student loans. For a while, this seemed like a good solution. But as more and more students joined the queue, HELB started looking like an ATM with an out-of-cash sign. Public universities started sinking into debt, and vice-chancellors had to tighten their belts. Fast forward to July 2023, and in comes the government's new solution, the student-centered funding model, rolled out with the promise of fairness and equity. This model claims to distribute funds based on who needs it the most and who has the brains to back it up, rather than giving everyone the same amount of support. So how does it work? Under this model, students are assessed and categorized into one of four funding bands. Band 1 is like the VIP section. If you're in serious financial need, you get the whole package: tuition, accommodation, and a living allowance. No worries, just focus on those grades. Band 2 is for those who need a helping hand, but not the whole package. The government covers 70 to 90% of their costs, and they're expected to come up with the rest. Band 3 is where things get tough. If you're middle class, you'll have to roll up your sleeves and work for your education. The government's contribution is minimal, so it's either loans or a helping hand from your parents. Band 4 is pretty much your on-your-own zone, reserved for those who can afford to pay, with little to no government support. So how do they decide where students land? It's all about the numbers. After high school, students apply for funding online, submitting financial details. The Kenya Universities, Colleges and Central Placement Service and the Higher Education Loans Board HELB then play judge and jury, placing students in one of these bands. The portal also allows students to appeal their funding band placement if they believe there's been an error or if their circumstances have changed. Now, you might ask, why introduce this new model in the first place? Well, the government claims the old system was benefiting students from well-to-do families who could afford to pay for their education. The aim now is to keep public universities afloat and make sure every student gets a fair shot. Sounds like a win-win, right? Well, Not quite.
13,000 first-year university students have lodged.
With over 10,000 appeals filed, it's clear many students feel shortchanged. They say the model is creating financial hurdles that are too high to jump.
Nimepata nafasi ya kujiunga na chuo kikuu cha Maseno University. According to the banding system, naona nikalia ngumu sana kujoin hiyo kamba.
We have really struggled kufika place tumefika sahi. Education itself is not easy. It's really expensive. You guys have really made it expensive. And then after graduation, where are we going?
With the new band, I'm supposed to be paying 57,170 shillings per semester, which I believe it's impossible with my parents' income.
Critics of the model argue that slapping a financial label on students is like putting up a do not enter sign for those from poor backgrounds who may now have to think twice before pursuing higher education.
That a child who has qualified to go to the university can be there crying, saying, look, I've been put in band 5. Is it band 5? When I ought to be in band 1, and therefore I cannot afford to go to the university. And when you follow, you find the person, the child of a well-to-do family has been put in band 1.
With the protests growing, the government is feeling the heat. Officials have promised to review how funds are allocated and to improve communication. But with so many students already up in arms, it's clear that the conversation around university funding is far from over. Students want fairness and the government wants sustainability. It's a tricky dance.
Anguka now. Anguka now, check it. Anguka.
And everyone's watching to see if the government can keep up with the beat. That's it on tonight's episode of Unpacked. We'd like to hear your experience with the higher education funding model in the country. Do speak to us on Unpacked NTV. That's the hashtag. You can also speak to us at NTV Kenya on X or at Michelle Ngele_. Let's take a break here on NTV Weekend.